there's joy. There's joy in the chaos. You will find joy if you look for it. And sometimes, especially for us who's been raised most of the time in the chaos, we're geniuses at finding what little joy is inside that chaos. And if the chaos is you, then it's even easier to find the joy. Because then I'm the perpetrator of this chaos, and therefore I'm also the perpetrator of this joy. Hey, Sunshine! Welcome to the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast with Kaylin and me.
I am here today with Katie Garcia, the mastermind behind the Pancake Copycats, which is the team that produces my podcast. And I have her on. We're going to talk about queer neurodivergent stuff. So let's talk about the first thing on the list, which is BIPOC and queer entrepreneurs and why you need to be taking up space.
Yes, it's true. So, as you might have noticed,
I'm white. I can't speak to this. This one's on you.
I'm Filipino, and I'm actually in the Philippines. Caitlin has somehow magically found me through Jennifer Allenbaugh, which is the first neurodivergent business person that I've ever encountered in the wild. And just the doors opened. She's also the reason why I figured that I am autistic and ADHD. And I got...
Oh, I love that. I love like the kind of like big brother, big sister autism diagnosis, like it's like generational, but like through the internet.
It is. So it's so funny because when we met, I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to go and get my ADHD diagnosis. And then she's like, oh, that's good for you. Like, because I don't think I'm autistic. And she's like, tell me about that. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I'm not. And then the signs, they all show up. So met with Jennifer and we got connected through Jennifer. Bless you, Jen. You're the best.
The best. We had a call. You told me everything you do. And then you almost gave me a free month of labor because you forgot to charge me.
Yeah, that happened. Because I have...
That happened. But now we've been working together for a year.
Right. It's been so fun.
A year.
Okay. So reeling it back, the reason why we got together is because one of your core values is justice, right? And part of having that as a core value is that you believe that everyone has to be paid a living wage. So when we work together, you made it clear that you will pay us our rate. Finally, a person who will not haggle.
Do people try to haggle?
Oh, so the thing is, they lowball a lot of people, mostly because I'm in a third world country. I'm physically in the Philippines, but unless I tell that to my potential clients, they think I'm somewhere in the US. It's kind of sad, but also funny at the same time because it feels like I pass. It's like I'm accidentally masking my people of colorness.
Your geographic locations.
Like, so weird. Like,
I do know that it is common to like hire a VA or editors or like anything in like tech in the Philippines and expect to pay like $5 an hour.
That's actually
like,
high.
In USD. That's high?
Some people have tried paying me $4.
Wow. Okay. So like at minimum, I expect to pay anybody I work with at least 15 and like ideally 25 as like the lowest level. I've had somebody at I think 20 and somebody at 22, but like once we've kind of like established that like the work is good and I want to keep working with you, like I get to 25 as soon as I can because I think that that's like the rate at which people live, which has gotten me into trouble sometimes because I'm not making enough to be paying myself and all these people. So I have to learn that one. I accidentally paid a living wage myself into poverty, and we're getting back on track after that. But your team is somebody who, like, as I was downsizing, like the contractors I work with, I was downsizing my budget and my business expenses. It was never even an option for me to consider cutting you guys. Aww. Because of the work that you do for me. And like you do so much in getting this podcast out there. I used to do all the editing myself and there wouldn't be a YouTube show if it was just me. and it wouldn't be as good. It just wouldn't. So I love you guys.
I've been invited to a couple of other podcasts when I was working with other clients. And I feel like there was this inhibition because I know that I might have to mask. But then when you said, oh, let's like go on a podcast and let's talk about being gay and like being neurodivergent and like both of those things as a creative, as a business owner. So, and I'm like, oh, with Caitlin, I won't have to pretend that I'm not a chaos gremlin with Siberian husky energy. Like, I want to put that joy in a box and just gift it to other the hapless people around me who are not yet aware that they're neurodivergent because they associate themselves with me, so obviously they are.
I know, right? It's like, I don't collect normal people. Like, if you're like, man, I'm really picking up what Caitlin's putting down, like, I have news. You're either bisexual or autistic.
Or ADHD.
Sorry. Or traumatized. Like, you're either bisexual, autistic, ADHD, or you need to leave your husband. Like, those are the four... Those are the four people.
Or you need to like do a snippety snip for all the toxic people in your life who's just making you feel like you have to be watered down. So I remember why I chose to work with you, besides the fact that you're insane and just you match my energy. It's like anything that comes out of my mouth is something that I can imagine you saying in the wild, and there's like no repercussions because we're unhinged in a really fun, beautiful way, which like mostly neurospicy folk could like get.
Yeah. I feel like our unhinged is so normal to us, right? Like if I say, oh, I'm being unhinged, I took a nap today. Like you, first of all, are like, well, that's normal. But also you recognize the unhingedness because the hinge is masking. People who are hinged are fitting in neurotypical, ableist, white, hetero, Christian, patriarchal society. Bleep any of those words that you need to, because I know we can barely say racism out loud on the internet anymore. And that's actually been, that's been coming up in my marketing, is that like in working title, I really only want the people where we get along like this, where we are unhinged matches, where like the level of neurodivergence and former gifted childhood trauma and whatever, like all those things line up. Because like if just like a normal person, and I use the term normal here to mean the cis, straight, white, Christian, thin, able-bodied patriarchy. That's code for normal. I'm a weirdo. You're a weirdo. Those are the normies. If a normie showed up in working title, I don't know that I could coach them to write their book because they're not going to have the same kinds of problems. They're not going to have the same kinds of relatable experiences from their past attempts at writing a book. We speak two different languages.
They're going to want you to tough love them because that's how most neurotypical people like to coach people. I remember when I worked with this client and someone reached out to me wanting to coach me, and they were saying like, you need to like get out there. They said I was being selfish because I was not bringing out my gifts out into the world, and that I have to like move out of my comfort zone so that, you know, I would shine and like be the best. And I'm like, newsflash, I'm actually never in my comfort zone because the world was not meant for neurodivergent people. Like all the systems have been made to oppress us and like make us fit into the box and do what everyone else is doing. It's important for them to see people like us exist and be okay. Caitlin makes me cry a lot of times because the stuff that she says is like stuff that would make 16-year-old me cry. So welcome to the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast, where we like to cry.
Where we like to cry. That's perfect. That's the new intro. Run it. All right. This is okay. It's okay to start with a list, but then this conversation has taken a very natural and organic turn into talking about why hiring, working with, etc., people who share your marginalized identities is so important.
Or at least people who understand. that you're in the marginalized category and actually show up to
Right.
be an ally and support.
Yeah, and also like you can't hire people based on like saving them
You're
or
right.
like protecting them, because that's giving a little bit of like saviorism. And a friend of mine actually pointed out to me yesterday, like we were on a video chat, we were just talking, and she asked me, and she's like, why is it that like sometimes in your emails or like your marketing posts, you say something like, buy this so I can buy groceries? And I'm like, you're right. Because it's true, like I need income to live, but like that call to action is saying like, save me, help me. And like, I don't want people to hire me to save me, help me, unless like I very specifically do. So our like hot water tank exploded a couple months ago and flooded our basement. And I had like a bunch of bills coming due and this thing happened. And I was like panicking about money. And so I was like, look, we're doing a flash sale. I need to raise $2,000 in like 3 days.
So many people showed up.
Here are the ways you can hire me. People showed up. Some of my friends just like sent me some money, and the notes in those like Cash App transfers were like, you would do the same for me. Love you. And I'm like,
true. You would have done the same.
It was humbling. It was very humbling because I have shown up and like given somebody like the last dollars out of my savings account because like they needed it more than me in that moment. And like, I just trust that like the universe is going to have my back on that. And it has.
Yes.
Despite the clenchiness, I have never been cast out of my home. I have never gone hungry. I have been okay.
Because the universe is inherently abundant, and you are the universe experiencing itself. The only reason why we're like there's scarcity is because people are making a business out of making scarcity a thing. The market is actually selling the scarcity first. Like, okay, buy this so that you can be beautiful. Newsflash, you already are beautiful. Buy this so that you can be more appealing to whatever demographic it is, like either to be stronger, to be more healthy. Like, you can only be as strong and as healthy as you perceive yourself to be. Okay, another thing, I'm a fat person. So fat people.
As I was getting there. Like, I have trouble hiring thin people unless they have proven to me that they are safe.
I had like a job op where there's a post basically, and they were in the fitness industry. And I'm like, oh, do I want this? And then I read their copy and I'm like, oh, they're not weaponizing fatness. They're actually like, oh, if you ate right, you'll lose fat because then your body's not trying to be on survival mode and like hoard all the fat in your body. You're not gonna die. My dad is a fitness trainer. He's a bodybuilder. So I grew up thinking that I am so fat. He's probably gonna find this and he's gonna be like, no, that's not true. I'm like, no. Dieting as a 16-year-old really fucked me up. I have a lot of rage in my bones and in my heart for how
Let it out.
For how much injustice there is in the world. Like all of the oppressive systems, it's just piggybacking off of each other. Like when the gays are oppressed, when the disabled are oppressed, when like the neurodivergent people are oppressed, it's because the ones who are in power are gaining more. There's this effect where we think that the other marginalized groups is the enemy, and it's not.
Yeah, it's very us versus them, and that's part of it. That's how it works.
So basically, when we liberate ourselves in our different categories, in our different individualities, we are inevitably saving each other. Like, we don't want to be saved, but that's the byproduct of freeing. If you free the gays, they will also help. Like, it's just the natural course of things.
Yeah, it's all connected, and like a lot of us are multiply oppressed. Like, I am fat, I am non-binary, I am
chronically ill,
woman-shaped, like so like I am subject to sexism, I am subject to systemic and personal like fat phobia and anti-fat bias, and we've talked a lot about fat phobia on the podcast because I like to throw it out there every now and then, a couple times a year. I'm like, hey, reminder that I'm fat and shut up. And I'm queer, like, and if I work on queer liberation, those other things are going to like come with it. Like, I can't only liberate one part of myself, just like we can't only liberate one marginalized group.
There's this whole transformation, like the more you're aware of how the systems work against people. So the more aware you become, the more the rage bubbles. And then it's going to go up in the surface. And then the moment the rage surfaces, you're going to look around. You're going to start to look around and be like, oh, who are the other ragers here? Who's going to rage with me and actually, make the change? And this is also why y'all need to be in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. The people in there are just pure joy.
Right? Like sometimes we'll do like a work in progress thread and somebody will post like a doodle and somebody else will post like a beautiful oil painting. And those two things are exactly as awesome as each other. It's really non-hierarchical.
Speaking of hierarchical, I read, you know how the word anarchy makes people go bananas? Because they think that anarchy is setting shops on fire.
Bananarchy.
But anarchy is actually just a lack of a hierarchy. So when people don't have to comply, but don't have to be like, I have more rights, I have more points than you because I am on like this step of the ladder and you are down there in the ladder. But I have learned to embrace the anarchy because it's not not as bad as how people are perceiving it to be. I think it's been mislabeled as a bad word.
That's not what anarchy means. Like literally, like an is without, archy is organization, and it's not like chaotic nonsense.
It's chaotic
lack of organization
to the system that benefits from the hierarchy. Yeah,
that's sort of like the same concept as like when you start having boundaries, people aren't getting mad at like you and your boundaries, like, but you will notice who is mad that they are no longer benefiting from your lack of boundaries. So like hierarchy, abuse is a tool of control.
It's just fascinating because a lot of the things that I grew up believing in, I've always questioned. I'm a questioner. I remember when I was a child and maybe 5, 6, and I saw my grandma praying the rosary. Like, there's a big deal here where the sculptures will be brought to your house, and it's like this great honor because you get to pray. And like, I remember, because you have to play the whole rosary, and there's a lot of prayers, the same prayers. And I told my grandma, why do you pray the same thing over and over? Is your God deaf? And I was sent to a room, and the adults were like, why is your grandchild like that? She's your... I remember my grandma perceives me as her like source of pride and joy because I look like her. Just these little things that when people try to project their image onto you, so they're like, this is my granddaughter, she's the best, blah, 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 because secretly I'm the best. And when those words came out of my mouth, like, why do you keep saying that? Is God deaf? Like, they just lost their shit.
See, hard of hearing. Do you need to repeat yourself? Like, that's a normal child question.
So I got shut down real hard. So that's like one thing. And then the next is that people should be kind to each other. You should like put yourself in each other's shoes. I've been doing that since I was a child. And when I do that to other people, they'll be like, no, you just have to do things that like feel good to you. I mean, that's right. Do things that feel right for you, feel good to you, but like not at the expense of other people. You can feel good and not harm others.
That is a good benchmark. Like, does this serve me without harming others? If yes to both, please do it.
Like they'll teach you in school, like you have to practice empathy. You need to understand each other. And I'm like, yeah, I've been doing that. Are the other children doing the same thing though? Because newsflash, empathy is taught at home. You can't get a kid to not bully others if they're being bullied at home. You can't have children that like celebrates other people's differences if you, as parents or like guardian, if you tell them, don't be like that. or I will only accept you if you were this. This shows up a lot in how I run my business, because I remember we have this person that we play video games with, and I mentioned that I'm a business owner and that I work with neurodivergents. And I was like, when my business booms, I'd like to work with them. And they're like, why would you work with me? I'm disabled. I have IBS. I cannot sit down for 30 minutes and do the work. I will have to like do 5 minutes of work throughout the day, maybe, to get one thing done. And I'm like, yeah, as long as the thing gets done. The capitalism was so internalized that they thought I was running my business wrong. Because for me, running a business means that I get to earn money doing stuff I love, supporting the families of my team, and like it's not exclusive of each other. Like I can earn and they can earn, and I don't have to like hoard everything so that I will be the richest and then here is your little pizza money for for your hard work. No. I imagine a world where we'll all thrive. And I'm getting like a little teary eyed here because it's like for me, it's not hard. It's not hard to be a good person. It's not hard to pay people the right amount. It's not hard to like write stuff about things you're passionate about and publish it and not have this fear of backlash that, oh no, they're gonna find out I'm not straight. They're gonna find out I'm ADHD. Because I feel like a couple of weeks ago when I was panicking, I was like, did they not hire me because I said I was neurodivergent, or did they not hire me because they saw in my Instagram that I have like clear and my rainbow and like all the signs? Is that what's stopping them from hiring me? And then I was like, no, that's not true because Caitlin hired me. That's not true because other people hired me.
Yeah. And this is going to be the most ADHD thing I've said the whole time. But going back to what I said like 20 minutes ago, where I'm like, I don't want people to buy from me because I said, click this buy now link so I can buy groceries. I want them to hire me because I am so loudly, unapologetically queer and fat and non-binary
Yourself.
and autistic and ADHD. Like, I want to be myself so loudly that people hire me because they know they can be themselves with me.
Exactly.
So if somebody looks at your Instagram and is like, too gay, too fat, too weird,
too anti-capitalist.
Like, I love that you do like little smiley faces and like kawaii, like
you know how my
like,
invoices are signed
you.
like very believable invoice person, Katie Garcia.
Yes. And God, that makes me feel like I can be alive like that. I've been looking into getting like a part-time job or maybe even a full-time job to like have some like sustainable, like reliable income. And also because I kind of miss having coworkers. That's a shocker to me that I'm like, oh, I kind of miss just like, oh man, this meeting, right? Like just being able to like, I don't know, exist with other people. And then like I look at the job descriptions and I'm like,
thrives in a fast-paced environment.
Right, thrives in a fast-paced environment. Like you can't handle the fast-paced environment up here. And what your fast-paced environment is going to do is not make any sense because you are going to come in and reprioritize my day. And there's going to be this structural hierarchy of like, well, do what I said because I'm your manager. And I hate that because sometimes I do know a different thing than my manager. Sometimes I'm going to say no. Bosses hate that about me. But like, no, that job was burning us out. Like the whole creative team ended up like quitting within a year or two of each other. Like the original team that I had joined in on. You were really losing a lot of very talented people because you are treating us in the hierarchy. And honestly, like starting with probably millennials, that's my shtick, right? Millennials are killing the workplace.
Are
Chapter
we though?
3, I think, of my book. Like the hierarchy is not doing it. This should be collaborative. You should be hiring in talent because you trust that talent. So I have to just be loudly autistic on the internet.
You make an amazing entrepreneur though. Yeah,
me?
you do. Because you are...
No, I'm so chaotic.
Exactly. So A lot of times people think that running a business is like all these, they'll say, organize your business. Yes, there's joy in being organized in business. You don't want to lose your stuff in your bajillion Google Doc folders. But there's
do have those. I have a bajillion Google Doc folders.
There's joy. There's joy in the chaos. You will find joy if you look for it. And sometimes, especially for us who's been raised most of the time in the chaos, we're geniuses at finding what little joy is inside that chaos. And if the chaos is you, then it's even easier to find the joy. Because then I'm the perpetrator of this chaos, and therefore I'm also the perpetrator of this joy. So I cannot, in good faith, say that chaos is not good for business, because my business is still alive. And I am chaotic as fuck.
You know, that's so fair. Like, I have been doing this like full time for 4 years now, and I don't want to go back.
Exactly. I also don't want to.
I miss like this. I miss the stability, but I don't miss all the other crap of it. Like, I love prioritizing my own thing. Like right now I'm selling speculative fiction for trauma healing as a 6-week course. And I'm like, that's rad.
And like, you can't do that when you're in a corporate job.
Yeah. Those moments where like I get off a coaching call and I'm just like, that was really good. I'm really good at this. I wish it would stop surprising me that I'm really good at this, because I always feel like I'm like 6 raccoons in a trench coat being like, you can write a book. But no, it turns out I actually am really good at what I do. So, all right, I received that. I know I tried to reject it, but I received that I am a good entrepreneur. I think a good entrepreneur is a joyful entrepreneur.
I think a good entrepreneur is a kind of entrepreneur that allows others to rise with them. And that's what you've been doing for us. And that's also like one of the reasons why I'm even on this podcast is because Caitlin was like, Kitty, you need to do your marketing. And I'm like, I don't want to be perceived. And then she's like, you need to be perceived.
I did yell at you a little bit. I was like, why are we not marketing? Why are you not marketing?
Our job is literally in marketing. And the one thing we can market is ourselves. It's hilarious.
That's how I feel though too. It's so much easier to do, just like ADHD, just like cleaning your house. It's so much easier to go to your friend's house and help them clean than it is to clean your own house. So like, yeah, sometimes my house is filthy and my clients are feeling real good because I wrote them some banger copy. And other times I'm like, I gotta fucking clean this house, sell my thing and do stuff and be confident in it.
So I just want to, like, now that we're ending this on a fun note, I want to say that accommodations work for disabled people, queer people, neurodivergent people, all the peoples, especially when you're running a business. Because my business, I have neurodivergence. My social media manager, she doesn't particularly enjoy being in meetings and stuff. So if you're running a business and your people are telling you like, I don't want to show up in a meeting, can you chat me on Slack? Like, meetings are fun and all, but if you allow people to communicate in a way that's more effective for them and make room, you're actually going to make your business stronger. It's not you're not complying, you suck. I'll find someone who will comply. You can do that. You can hire someone who will comply. Or you can let this person that you've already vetted, that you've already been working with, just let them exist as themselves. When you let people exist as themselves, they show up as their best selves, hands down. Because like Caitlin allows my whole team to exist as ourselves. So she's like, here's the episode. We work our magic, we show up, and then it's done. And then there's no, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do it? There's no nitpicking because there's just this whole...
No, and you guys, man, sometimes you're like nervous.
We are!
With me. It is decreased a lot. But like in the start, probably like the first 3-6 months that we worked together, you were like, oh, is it okay if we do this? And Johan would be like, I think this title would work better for SEO. And I'm literally like, I am hands off. I record it. This is your expertise. Please pick the SEO rich title because I don't really care. I care about getting my message out there. And then I have hired you to make sure that it gets in front of as many eyeballs as possible.
I think that's the best working relationship, is that you don't care because you know that we care. Like the amount of care we have for making the content so good, because it's already great.
And I don't have to babysit it. I don't have to check in and say, is this episode going out on time? Or like, there's no Friday that has passed where I'm like, where's my episode? Why didn't it go out?
It's true.
Zero. Absolutely not. You guys are so on top of that I don't have to. And that's what hiring an expert is for. It is for removing my mental load. So I don't have to edit my podcast. I don't have to queue my podcast up and schedule it for publication. I don't have to double check that it went out, because I have hired a team that does that.
So that Caitlin show up as the best coach that she is.
I can just show up and do stuff, and it's great. And on this note, I do have a coaching call starting right now.
I love you.
So we're going to have to wrap it up. But if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I'm neurodivergent and I want to have a podcast and I have a business,
Russ.
Then you should talk to Pancake Copycats.
We're at
hire them.
Pancake Copycats, or just find me at Instagram. It's at Silly Kitty Meows.
Silly Kitty Meows. You can find her because she likes and shares everything I post.
Yeah.
So that's one clue. All right, Kitty, thank you so much for being here with me. Please pass my love on to the rest of the team, who I've only seen with my eyes once, because they don't like to be perceived on camera.
Because the whole team
3 times.
is just introverts. They're all INFJs.
Yeah.
And I'm the token extrovert.
It's beautiful. That's very helpful in business.
Love y'all.
Every agency needs one token extrovert.
Yeah.
I love you. I'll talk to you later.